In the last video, we covered these 5 things. Now we're going to fill out this chart. First one, drawing an item. Let's say you wanted to eat some cheese. In theory, eating cheese should only be one action, but that only applies if you're already holding the cheese. Otherwise, you must spend another action to draw the cheese. Let's say you wanted to strike with a sword, but you were just finished eating some cheese. That means you have to spend an action to draw your sword. That's right. Spend one action to draw your sword, another action to strike with your sword. Then, let's say, you wanted to drop your sword on the ground. You can do this as a free action. That's what that symbol means. A free action does not cost any actions. That means you still have your third action available. That means you can draw some cheese. Now you know how to draw an item, and you also know how to drop an item. Let's go to the next lesson. Natural 20s and natural 1s. Let's say you want to strike a ghoul. The ghoul has an AC of 16. Like any action, you need to roll a d20 and add your attack modifier. So you roll your d20, you get an 18. You add a 3, you get a 21. Success! But let's say in another situation, you roll a 13. You add 3, success! Now let's try a third hypothetical. Let's say you rolled a 20. You add 3. You get a 23. Success! But wait. Rolling a 20 on the die is special. It's called a natural 20. This is a cause for celebration because your natural 20 upgrades your success to a critical success, even though you didn't exceed the AC by 10. In fact, a natural 20 always improves your result. A critical failure with a natural 20 becomes a failure. A failure with a natural 20 becomes a success. A success with a natural 20 becomes a critical success. Always calculate your initial success first. But then, if you rolled a 20, increase the level of success. But there's another side to this coin. If you rolled a 1, a natural 1, you must decrease the level of success. By the way, what happens if you get a critical success on a strike? Double damage! Now we know our natural 20s and our natural 1s. Let's talk about natural cover. Did you know that you can have cover without using the action take cover? Let's say you use stride and you move right next to the ghoul over here. If you draw a line between the center of your space and the center of the ghoul's space and hit a wall, then you have cover against each other. Cover gives you a +2 to your AC. It also gives you a +2 to stealth and reflex saves against certain effects. Let's say instead of moving over there, you moved over here. There is an object there, that little circular pole from before. Unfortunately, the line does not collide with the pole, so you do not have cover. But the pole is still there, which means you can still use take cover to upgrade your no cover to cover. Now let's say you're back over here. Here you have natural cover without using any action. What would happen if you used the action take cover while in natural cover? You now have greater cover. Greater cover gives you a +4 to AC, stealth, and reflex. Very useful. Now let's reset back to the beginning. Let's say you stride behind this wall. You draw a line between the center of your space and the center of the ghoul's space, and you collide with the wall. That should mean you have cover. But if you look, it seems like you barely even have line of sight. Sure, you can draw a line from each of your space, but only from the edges, and it's difficult. Well, it's the GM's final call, but you might consider this to be natural greater cover. That means you have greater cover against each other. A good tip. Every time you stride, see if it's cover, no cover, or greater cover. You can always use an action to upgrade your cover as long as there's an object nearby to hide behind. Let's say you draw a line between the center of your space and the center of the ghoul's space, and it passes through a character or some other flimsy object. Could you get cover from this creature or something other than a wall? You can, but it's called lesser cover. A lesser cover gives only a +1 to AC, stealth, and reflex. Lesser cover is not a new stage of cover. In some ways, it's actually just another version of no cover. If you use the action take cover, it will upgrade lesser cover to cover. By the way, the take cover bonus only applies until you end it as a free action, or move, attack, or fall unconscious. I think this is pretty intuitive. So now you have natural cover in your tools against the enemies. Let's talk about initiative. The game is all about taking turns with the enemies to reduce your HP as much as possible. But what happens if you have a friend, and your ghoul has friends, and your ghoul's ghouls have friends? Hey, where did that goblin come from? He's from the last video. Who goes first out of all these characters? When combat starts, your GM will make a list of all the combatants. He will then have all the creatures roll initiative. This roll could be anything. It depends on what you were doing when you entered combat, but most of the time it will be perception. Everyone will then get a number. The order that you go in combat is rearranged based on these numbers. That's how you determine who goes first. Here's our list. We start with the goblin. He gets 3 actions, 1 reaction. Then the ghoul's turn. 3 actions, 1 reaction. Now it's your turn. 3 actions, 1 reaction. By the way, what is a reaction? A reaction is an action that you get on your turn. However, you can spend it on anyone's turn. Most reactions are special abilities of some kind. They need to have this symbol, the reaction symbol, for you to be able to use it as a reaction. There's a good chance you won't have a reaction every round, or even most rounds. But if you do, remember, you still have to spend your reaction to do it. And you can only spend 1 reaction per round. What's a good reaction that anybody could do? I'll introduce you to a reaction called Aid. Aid is a reaction you can only do if you have spent an action on your turn to prepare to aid. Let's say your friend wants to strike a ghoul, but it's not your friend's turn. It's your turn. What could you do to help him? You could spend one of your actions to prepare to aid. For example, you could sing to distract the ghoul. Now it's your friend's turn. He's going to strike the ghoul. Even though it's your friend's turn, this is when you use your reaction. Aid, because you can use a reaction anytime. You roll a d20 and you add modifiers. In this case, probably performance. You need to meet or exceed a DC 20. If you do that, you give him a +1 to his strike. If you critically succeed your aid, it's a +2. Prepare to aid and aid are 2 very powerful actions because you could potentially do anything your imagination could conceive of on your GM's approval. You could boost somebody's high jump with an athletics check. You could distract an enemy with a performance to make it easier to hit. You could use nature to tell your friend an enemy beast's weak point. Now you know initiative, prepare aid, and aid.